Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and what I'd like to talk to now is what the Brexiteers said we would find of Brexit at this time and what's actually happened. So, of course, we're in the very end game of Brexit. By the end of this week, something may be determined. The battle between Leave and Remain has intensified as a result in the media, in the public arena, in Parliament, and around the world. But let's look at what the Leave campaign said we could expect of Brexit and what has actually happened. So, first of all, the reasons for wanting to leave the EU were made out to be political, but the proponents were very clear that we'd all be a lot wealthier as well. In other words, we would gain economically. In fact, we were told that the £350 million a week that we pay to the EU could be instantly saved and diverted to the NHS. Now, that was shown to be a massive lie even at the time, not just because no Conservative government would ever increase funding to the NHS, but because we don't pay £350 million a week to the EU. Not even close. The Office for National Statistics slapped down the ministers for even claiming that. Of course, that sort of news doesn't make it into the popular press. They said that foreign investors would be queuing up to do business with us. They even named foreign investors in the UK as being happy to be here. They specifically said that Nissan would never leave the UK. They held up their poster boy, Sir James Dyson, as an example of a proven businessman and industrialist who was back in Britain post-Brexit, even when almost every other industry and business in the country was calling for us to remain. But what has happened since? Figures have now shown that the UK is £66 billion poorer just because we want to leave the EU before we've even left. This is to say nothing of what will happen if we actually do. So far, from saving £350 million a week, the government's own figures show we'll be losing £2,000 million a week. Now that is a message that needs to be on the side of a bus. Foreign businesses have not been queuing up to invest in us as soon as we leave the EU. In fact, both foreign and British businesses have been queuing up to leave. So when looking at the figures of money we're already losing, bear in mind that many businesses in the UK have committed to leaving the UK within the next 2 years. They haven't gone yet. We haven't had that economic impact yet. And that's no matter what the Brexit outcome. The likes of Nissan have already committed to leaving. They haven't left yet. They will be doing. And even if we decide to remain, they're not going to change their mind because they've had to commit that investment elsewhere. As for Sir James Dyson, he's taken the rest of his business to Singapore, a country which has a free trade deal with the EU, something we don't. In the light of this, Peter Oborne, a journalist who has written for some of the vilest newspapers in the land in favour of leaving the EU, has had to do a complete about-face. He's turned his back on his former associates and written passionately about how he was wrong and that leaving the EU would be insane. I've put a link in the description below if you want to check it out yourself. However, I do have to point out that he still isn't accepting that he was wrong to support leave in the first place. He claims that the world is moving towards protectionist trading blocs, but that has only recently happened due to Donald Trump. Well, while it's true that President Trump has certainly been pushing protectionism in global trade, it has been moving that way for decades. The EU's success as a protectionist bloc has been influencing global trade for decades. Now, there are some people who don't like that. They want free global trade. Fair enough. And for those who voted leave to get away from being part of what they see as the problem, I say that at least they've taken a principled stance which is not based on fantasies. A rare thing on that side of the debate. However, leaving a protectionist trade bloc is not going to usher in a world of free trade. The world is already being swallowed up into these blocks. Maybe in a century the trend will reverse. I don't know. But for now it's only getting stronger. And people keep saying that we did fine before we joined the EC. Well, no, we didn't. That's why we joined. The government at the time didn't take us in because they suddenly wanted to stop war in Europe. The UK has only ever been in the club for the economic benefits. But the other thing to consider was that at the time before we joined, these protectionist trading blocs were not the norm. Individual trading agreements were the most common way of arranging trade between countries. Now they are not. To say that we could leave the EU and form all these great trade deals with other countries is like saying you're ditching your car to go back to horse and cart. Well, good luck with that, but the world has moved on. Others are not going to join you in that. So the economic argument has been well and truly lost. It was a nonsense at the time, just from a hypothetical point of view, and has now been proven to be demonstrably rubbish. The country has lost masses of wealth in just 2 years of trying to leave the EU. We haven't been able to replicate the trade deals that Liam Fox said would be easy, and already well before March 29, 2019, British jobs have either already been lost or are certain to be lost in the next 2 years, and there is nothing coming to the country to replace those lost jobs. So no matter what the country does now, they're gone. Even if we now remain, which is the best outcome that is possible, our economy is still buggered. For the short term at least, it simply has hopes of recovering maybe in 10 years' time. At the other end of the acceptability spectrum, if we leave without a deal, the aftershocks of that cataclysm will be felt for generations. So 2 years after Brexiteers said that these trade agreements would be easy and that we won't have lost any of our benefits, we've lost wealth. We don't have any agreements with countries who are responsible for over 99% of our trade. We've lost credibility, we've divided our country and we've broken our parliament. Now, someone just finally recently asked me if Brexiteer thinking at this point was like being a flat earther. No, it isn't. I understand that some people at the time wouldn't accept expert views and needed to see things for themselves. But we can now see the effects of Brexit. So anyone still defending it is actually more like an anti-vaxxer. They're killing their children through ignorance and remain unrepentant even when the effects become apparent, such as the recent outbreak in Nottingham, for example. So there we are. Hope you found that video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification as well, please. And until next time, I'll see you later.